Hi, I want to explain a new idea that brings together a couple of things, like I often like to do it. Some people become web developers, like they go into classes, and the school that does this, that I mostly have to do with, is called Code Bar. And then they do these tutorials, but this is not very real life-like. And for a while I was thinking about how to make it more that it's more like a job, so people can learn things more than a language. Okay, it would be cool to work in teams. It would be cool to have real customers and have real life problems that come with real customers. And it would be cool to build something that they can showcase later, because it's nice to have something on GitHub, but if you want to be a web developer, maybe it's also good to have something on the internet. And so I was thinking about how to make that possible, that people who are training to be web developers can have like real life projects more. But then I figured that acquiring real customers is actually quite a lot of hassle, and I don't want to do it. And I still don't want to do it. So for a few months, nothing happened. But now I have an idea. And I got inspired by Allergikerkarte in Vienna, which is like a cafe where they have more explicitly listed the ingredients, so that people who have allergies have it easier and don't need to have the whole discussion every time, but find something that is suitable for them. I found that very nice. And so the idea is, how about if you go to a restaurant, you can click "but I can't have peanuts" on their website, and then it shows the menu without the peanuts containing dishes. I think that could be cool for a couple of reasons. Restaurant websites are often very bad. And there isn't much money in gastronomy anyway, so at least in independent gastronomy. And so I guess that there are many restaurant websites that would be happy to get an update. And it can be made by a web development student. Like, that's actually a good example of a website for a web development student as well. So that can be a good match. Also, there's many restaurants, so even if only like 1% of the restaurants wants to have a new website, it's possible to find them and to have actual projects for the students. Also, there's an increasing number of people with specific dietary habits, like vegetarians and vegans and people with allergies and people who are just picky eaters like me. So there's actual demand for it. And so people who want to have it can actually urge their favorite restaurants to get a menu that can be filtered for certain ingredients. There are many things to consider here. I would like to have something like a template or a framework or a pattern that web developers in the learning can use to make restaurants' website that can be filtered for allergies. And a part of the people who eat in the restaurants, I would say that there are 3 types of people involved in the whole thing. One, the people who write the template or pattern or framework. Then the people who make the websites for restaurants. And I think that's going to be like Code Bar students or other people who practice to be web developers. And there are restaurant owners, and I think it would be good if restaurant owners can actually edit the menu themselves. So if suddenly everybody who is allergic to mustard comes into their restaurant and says, "But we want to have that, is there mustard in it, listed in the thing as well?" Then the restaurant owner, it would be cool if the restaurant owner can change that themselves without calling their webmaster. So what would one filter for? That depends on the restaurant. I mean, what they sell. For instance, if you sell ice cream, it's likely that all your products are vegetarian already. So it doesn't make much sense to filter for vegetarian, but it might make sense to filter for nuts and for vegan, if you have vegan and non-vegan products, and if you have products with nuts and without nuts. There's also a category for maybe. So some dishes can be made vegetarian. And for instance, in Vietnamese cuisine, there's often peanut topping on salads, for instance, and it's very easy to make the dish without the peanuts. So there's like a yes, no, and a maybe category, or a can made without category. So here's an easy, like a very small example actually. Getting back to the selling ice cream thing, you have vegan, nut-free and gluten-free as categories, and then they sell different ice creams with and without nuts and with and without being vegan. They also have like cake and chocolate bars and coffee. And the coffee can be, like the cappuccino, can be with milk or with oat milk. So it can be vegan, but it's not necessarily vegan. And they would usually sell their ice cream in cones that have gluten-containing grains in them. So usually they would be gluten-containing ice cream, but you can also have them on a cardboard thing, and then it's gluten-free, obviously. So this is a very short list, just to exemplify the whole thing, and also to show why, like one reason why I think it should be decentralized, because ultimately only the cafe can decide whether or not they have vegan cappuccino. Like sometimes there's no universal decision whether something is included in a dish or not, and it's up to the restaurant or the chef, however, to decide whether or not something contains some ingredient. Yes, so what happens now? The local chapter of Code Bar, so which would be in Berlin, is considering having a hackathon to have this like framework or pattern or something. So this would be a group effort to have front-end and back-end developers and also someone who does graphics. So this is kind of in your organ. It is maybe being organized right now. Otherwise, I'll try find something else. And there are a couple of things that are needed in the very beginning. And maybe you have an idea, but also maybe you watch this video later when these questions are already solved, or we have given up on it, which I don't hope. So we need an English name. In English, I just don't know how to call it. In German, I would call it Allergikerkarte, which is would be something like allergy sufferers menu in English, which doesn't sound very elegant. So an English title for it would be really good. Then there should be a logo. So what could be a good symbol for such a thing? I do not know. We'll have to find something. Software architecture decisions have to be made. I've talked about a couple of people with it. Obviously, it's not only about what's the best technology, because that's not easy to decide anyway, but it's also about what can we work with beginners, like with people who are training for web development. So it shouldn't be something very rare, because it should be possible to find a coach for the person. So it should be some common technology. Yes, and should have like good standards of how would one use web development nowadays? How would one make websites nowadays? Some people, for instance, are totally against JavaScript, and I think in this case this is unnecessary. Like there are JavaScript tutorials at CodeBar. There is use for JavaScript. It's not bad practicing it anyway, so why not? But something about that has to be decided. And it would be also cool, like, to have a backlog of less urgent wishes. For instance, making a website possible for a screen reader. So that's not something we need to implement right now, but it would be cool to have it accessible and have general good practices about web development, because it's also web developers in the training, and it's cool if they learn all the good things, or if they have a chance to learn all the good things in this project. Is there money involved? Not yet, but I think it should be totally possible to make money from it, like that professional web developers make restaurant websites and use this framework, a pattern or whatnot we are doing right now, and have it closed source. That I think that should be fine. So it should be a BSD-like license. And yeah. What am I going to do? I'm not a web developer either. So I can coordinate stuff. I can try to talk people into stuff. For instance, I could try to talk to the vegan community that they should tell the restaurants to ask to have this Allergikerkarte involved. So I can put my face in front of a camera and try to make it popular. That's something that I can do. I really would like to have it decentralized. Actually, I only would like to have like a GitHub repo, maybe a couple of tutorials, like how to implement it and how to use it as a restaurant owner. So that's actually quite cool for restaurant owners to have tutorials how to change their own menu once they're in it. And there should be a map so that you can find restaurants that have the Allergikerkarte. I think that would be really cool. And a way that restaurant owners who want to have it and web developers and web development students who want to offer it can find each other. That's basically all my thoughts that I have at the moment. I will make a GitHub repository and post it in the show notes so that you can find it and add your thoughts and make like post issues if you think something can be improved. For instance, if you have suggestions for the software architecture or how to run things, who else might get involved, blah de blah de blah. The GitHub thing would be the place. Yes, I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and that's it from me for today. Bye.